with a lot of poets and a lot of poetry people, like they'll find out about poetry events, they'll find about open mics and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of people will just like shut themselves headfirst into it, go to every single open mic, every single poetry slam they can go to, and then they'll get to a point where they get tired. It's like, I need to take a break, and they'll take a break and it'll stop, and then things happen in their life, and therefore, and like whether it be holiday, university, things in their life that are very serious, etc. So things will happen, they'll take a break from them. Then just getting back into it is always a difficult thing. So just in terms of your poetry career, if you will, how would you describe like your engagement with poetry? Like how did you start, and like have you taken many breaks in poetry?
Okay, well I would say that I'm a natural poet. as most of us would. But I'd say when I was growing up I wrote a lot, because it was a way of expressing myself without actually having to speak to somebody else. And I did that for a really long time. Then I took a break just before university, and then for most of university I didn't do anything except not do poetry. And then I'd never been to any open mic nights or anything like that. I'm from quite a small village and we didn't have anything like that where I'm from. But then one day I was at my favourite cafe in Vauxhall, so Paper Tyrone, as you'll know, but I didn't know that there was a poetry night. I just went for tea, and somebody said, "Oh, are you staying for the poetry? Because if you are, it's £5." I thought, well, I don't have £5, so I better be off then. But then all of these people started arriving who looked really interesting, and then I started inquiring about what was actually happening. They said, "Oh, we're having an open mic poetry night, so it's £5 unless you're performing." And then I thought, okay, well I don't have £5, but maybe I can write a poem. So during the break time I very madly wrote this poem and performed it, and it felt phenomenal, and that was my kind of launch back into poetry, but also kind of the beginning of my poetry career, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah.
Cool. And like then from there, like how much were you performing and writing, and like were there any other breaks after you got into that whole after initial rush? Was there any breaks after that, or was it all just completely going for it after that? Okay,
well after that I was very addicted. As I think a lot of people can associate with, when you feel like you finally found your voice again and you found this community of people who will listen to you and clap you for sharing your heart. So I got quite into it, but then I went on holiday and started studying Farsi in the evenings, and that was at the same time as the poetry, and so I haven't actually done any nights since then, and that was about a year ago. Yeah.
So now I'll be getting back into poetry now.
Yeah.
So like what? Gonna go ask about firstly about what got you back into poetry. Then I'll go into like me and getting into back into poetry. So what, if anything, are you looking for before you get back into poetry? Is there anything specific you're looking for, or is it just luck or something like that?
Well, I think I need to find a new night, because the last one has some slight painful memories. Dating poets. Not a good plan. So I just need to find somewhere where I don't know everyone, but where I feel comfortable and happy, and it's not on the same night as an evening class, basically. Yeah. So I just need to do a bit of exploring and also write some new shit to launch myself back in.
That makes sense. Like, because like for me, like I got into poetry when I was young, and I got into it via workshops, and then eventually that led me to like Apples and Snakes and doing things with them, which is a great way of doing things, but it meant that I didn't go to many open mic nights or poetry slams or stuff like that, and so I was doing lots of the workshops. Then I went to uni, so I almost took a break whilst I was in uni, doing a couple of like little events back in London with like lots of workshops and groups like that, but then still mainly being in uni. Only when I got back from uni that I was like, okay, let's try and I guess I can go back to poetry because lots of my poet friends are still in London, they're still doing it, let's see what else is on. And then especially because I had a bit more free time now I was in London, like I finished school now, work, and I can figure out my whole social life and all that kind of stuff now, let's see what else is on. And that's when you started going to poetry nights, and it's like, okay, these are quite cool. And I think it was finding nights where I was the most comfortable, so okay, this is something that's cool. it was also as well on the because poets are very egocentric. We are very egocentric people, so it was going to poetry nights and people telling me, "You're good, come to this night or come to this night." It's like, okay, then I will. And you keep going and going, and like now at the stage now where one, I just genuinely like poetry nights. They are quite a lot of fun to do. But also, like, I'll go to poetry night and people go like, "You're cool, come to this night." So okay, fine, and I will.
Yeah.
So like, would you say like that would be part of it for you? Like, if you go back into actually going to poetry nights, will there be part of like once you get then you get almost the validation? Will that be a little thing that kind of helps as well?
Yeah, I think that would help quite a lot, and I think it's always nice performing poems to poets.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes if you perform it to anyone who isn't instinctively wired in that way, the people will appreciate it, but they won't really get it in the same way. So yeah, I think it will be really good going to new nights, meeting new people, and then that kind of sense of validation, that connection, but also being exposed to poets I've never heard before, hearing how different people speak, what they're talking about, and then I think that would help quite a lot with motivation, because I used to write a lot, and I'd always have new shit every week, and at the moment it's not like that. So I think having that motivation of challenging myself to have new stuff every time I go to a night would be really useful.
Cool. Then, okay, in terms of getting back into the scene, then what kind of things, what elements do you look for in a poetry night? Like, what would the poetry night give for you? What kind of setup would it have to make you probably really want to go to it?
I tend to like quite small places, when there aren't too many poets, because it can be quite exhausting when you just have hours and hours of poets, no matter how good they are, and how much you appreciate their stuff. You kind of get a bit oversaturated when there's so many, and so I quite like ones where maybe there's 10 or 12 poets, something like that. It's a bit more sustainable, but there's also time to socialise afterwards without being absolutely exhausted for the next day. How about you?
I think I'm definitely in that stage as well. Like, I like in going to lots of poetry nights. Partly it's just generally see what's out there, but also just because I like poetry. You get to some of the poetry nights and it's like, okay, this is a poetry that lots of people have talked about. This is cool, but also there's a lot of poets performing this night, and I love that there's lots of poets, but also I have now forgotten the first poet that went up and the second poet, and there's no time to properly talk to the poets that I wanted to talk about. Like, there's a couple of nights I can mention that I really like I love them. Like, I know it's on hiatus, I remember like Words Up was a great night because there was a nice community vibe. It never felt there were too many people. It also finished at a fairly nice time. It gave you time to talk to people afterwards. The night I run Boomerang Club, we are a bit crap at finishing on time properly, but we do have nice spaces there you can talk to people and communicate people in that sense of it. On that note, whilst it's got a lot of poets, but it's run fairly well. Another night, Spoken Word London. That is one of my favourite ones to go to, just in terms of the community. Like, that one helped me properly get back into poetry, because that one is just open micers. Everyone is on the same level. There's no kind of especially lots of nights you go to. As much as they want to try and avoid it, there's a bit of we're all friends with each other. We all know each other. There's that level of cliquiness, which is bound to happen because people are friends. People will grab into their friends. There's something about Spoken Word London which kind of breaks down that barrier a little bit. Okay. It's just everyone's on the same footing. Everyone is a poet, just there to watch it, and people in the audience, they're all pretty much poets as well. And especially because it is just called Spoken Word London, a lot of people, that's their first time getting into poetry. They'll just Google it. I want to do Spoken Word in London. Oh, Spoken Word London comes up. What do you know? So they go into it via that. Everyone gets 5 minutes, and you've got 5 minutes to do whatever you want to on stage. So you've got it's mainly spoken word, obviously, but you get some people that are comedians, you get some musicians, and you get some people that want to just talk 5 minutes. I remember the first time I went there, a woman went on stage and just literally spent 5 minutes saying, I don't go out that much, but I came to Spoken Word London because a friend of mine told me to come to it, and this was a great night. And I would say thank you to everyone, and that was just freaking lovely.
Yeah, I like the sound of something that's quite varied like that, and where even if you haven't written something new, you can still sit and share an experience or tell a story or sing a song. Is there some music there as well?
There's some, obviously because of time, obviously people don't have time to set up all things, but some people can sing in, and obviously with poetry and spoken word, people incorporate music into their poetry and that side of it. So there's a couple of parts like that, but yeah, it's a very warm and welcoming night, and especially because it's run by two fantastic people, Pat Cash and Hannah Gordon. They're great at keeping that community aspect going. So I think for me, especially I'll just not make me sound like such a douche, but it'll sound like a douche anyway. Like I am an old man in poetry years. I've been doing poetry for far too long, going to far too many poetry nights and all that sense of it. So it is now the case that I am a lot more particular of what nights I go to. I can't go to every single night because I don't have the energy or effort to. And I've heard that many poems and seen that many poetry nights. That's like, I need. Why am I going to? Why you in particular? Yeah. So it will be things like, oh, this is a brilliant community aspect. That makes it great for me. So I think that's what does it for me.
And what's your view on feature slots?
In terms of what, me doing them or people like seeing poets do them?
Yeah, I mean, would that draw you to somewhere?
A little bit, like obviously, like there'll be some poets that like they're that big and named as like, I want to see you perform, so that'll help me do it. And like that's part of what we do at Boomerang Club. We have features at Boomerang Club just to get people. Partly to get people to come into it because you've got that guaranteed quality. So features are great for guaranteed quality, but it's all about what I want to get from a poetry night. Like sometimes it'll be I want to perform and get back into performing. Sometimes I just want to get back into listening and watching poetry. If it's the latter, features will be more of it for me. So, and what about you?
I think I like it when there's features, but I think from my mind there's a bit of a lack of clarity of how features are chosen. So sometimes I think, it would be a pretty cool feature, but how does that work? So it's a bit of a smokes and screens. But I think something you mentioned before as well was the timekeeping.
Yes.
And I think it can be quite frustrating if you have to go somewhere afterwards, or if you have to
travel back across London or whatever.
Not be there anymore. And you don't want to leave early, but it goes on quite a bit longer than it's set.
Cool. On that note, then I think that will be it for this episode. But thank you so much for coming down and talking.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Cool.